love that we wrote this book, Give Your Job Away Together. When people give themselves permission to give their job away and then start to actually do it, delegate and entrust people in the right places with the right people, man, it gives them this great gift of margin.
So true. And I think giving your job away by now, I hope that we're all realizing that giving your job away is not so much about finding your gaps and filling it as it is discovering and developing people that fill your gaps. And you're right. It's the margin that we receive that allows us to do that. That is the value in giving your job away and why we're so passionate about it.
And as much as the margin is a blessing to you as the pastor or ministry leader, and we talk about that, but there's ministry burnout. People aren't giving up and quitting, and there's so many hours. The pace of ministry is only faster. It is a gift to you to slow the game down so you can have joy in ministry. But you said it, this is really not just about filling your gaps for your ministry. It will be a benefit to you. This is really about developing other people. How do you say it? The
discipleship of development.
Discipleship of development. Talk about that a little bit.
I think, and I grew up in a pastor's home, so I know the pace of ministry from the inside out. And I've also worked in ministry. So I know this pace. I know that what we do goes far outside of our job description. We keep adding and adding for the kingdom's sake. We, as in ministry, we're always thinking of how can we gain more for the kingdom. And so I think whenever we go into ministry, sometimes we are task oriented. We're concerned about pastoring, but I wonder if we're as concerned with developing and discipleship. Do our jobs allow us that opportunity to disciple and develop? Paul, there's a verse that Paul says that you've been doing this for so long that you ought to be teaching people by now. And I wonder, as pastors, do we ever get to that point? Are we so consumed with the task that we never get to the point where we're receiving the rich reward of discipling?
Well, Give Your Job Away is a ministry mandate so that we can buy back that margin so that we can do what I think is the highest level pastoring we can do, which is developing the gifts in people's lives. The ministry work is people work.
Oh, that's good.
And I know, as you said, I know we have the Sundays are coming. You got to speak this night, and you have this event. There's the preparation, and so that's why Give Your Job Away is slowly doing the Give Your Job Away people work. Buys you more margin to now see not just because you've said this in previous podcasts, not every volunteer is created equal. That might mess up some people because we love everybody equally. They all have God potential in them, but talk about how we see people differently.
Well, I think we talk, and we have a couple of quotes from Lance Witt has a beautiful quote about developing the potential. Mark Batterson says that one of the things that Christ's followers fail to do is spot potential in other people. And I do think that as we give our job away, and as you're saying, we slow our pace down, we've said the word observe a lot inside of these podcasts. But it does give us that opportunity to observe where people are, but then this ability to say, okay, what can they become? So I don't think that is a spiritual thing. Like we can see through spirit eyes in even more clarity whenever we have margin to observe more clearly.
You said become. Boy, what a powerful word. When people walk into the doors of our church, and if you're thinking the way people think, which is, I know that because I think, how do I think? The psychology of people, what they may not say this to you, they're there to say, what could I become? And it's our job to disciple and manifest that gift, that calling, that potential in their life. As ministry leaders, we all need great high capacity leaders. We keep on talking about it. And boy, we'd all say yes and amen. If I could see a Michelle Morehouse now and say, of course I'd pick her. She's proven, she's excellent. Her skills have been developed. There's the maturity, the capacity, the initiative. But how do we find the potential in people who aren't there yet? And so to help them become what God's made for them to be is the hard work, but the highest work. Another book I love, Michelle, I read, Hero Maker. And it talks about how we make others the hero in the story.
Oh, that's so good.
That's the point of the book. And
yes.
they say this, they say, the 4 most important words the pastor can say to their people is, I see in you. That's almost prophesying
yes.
the potential in their life, because they only see themselves here, but it's our job to take them there, to there, to there. And that's when, man, this multiplication thing starts to blow up.
Yes. So tell me, how do you, after you say, I see in you, what are the steps that you have taken to develop someone into that what you see that maybe they could become?
Well, you've used the word observation, and I think I didn't realize I was doing that. Number one, I love people. I love to study people. I love to help people. So it came from a pastor's heart. You said some other time, I have to say this again, you said, we pastor people, but we don't develop people. And I think one of the greatest ways you can show care and love, like a shepherd would to his people, is to develop what's in them. So I think I didn't realize I was observing people as I was working. The other word I love is testing people. Now, this is the scary part, because you talked about in a previous podcast our goals, guidelines, and guardrails. And I had never thought of it that way until you kind of put language to it, that I would widen the guardrails, sometimes a little too far, too quick. I would entrust too quickly, but I'd rather take the risk to say, I see in you potential, I see calling, I see grit, I see initiative, I see passion. I can work with that.
Yeah.
And so I would just start to slowly test them. Now, of course, one old pastor told me years ago, never do ministry alone. Always take someone with you. So one practice I would do, and this is hard, but if I had to go to hospice to visit someone, if I had to go set up something, I wouldn't just go when it was convenient for me. I'd call this potential person and say, when could you after work meet me to go visit with me at the hospice?
Yeah.
Or when could you and a few other guys or two couples come with me and do the work? And as you know, it's always easier just to do it by myself or to call me in the staff room to do it.
Right.
And it was actually messier and it didn't go as fast as I wanted, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was I'm testing to see what do they do with what I give them.
We've talked about CMI, the Capacity Maturity Initiative, and I think you can see bits and pieces. Maybe you don't see all of capacity or all of maturity or all of initiative, but what you're doing in those testing, what you're calling testing incidents, you're actually saying, okay, where is their spiritual maturity in this situation when I'm right beside them? How am I seeing them process this? That's so good. And there's nothing wrong with testing. There's nothing wrong with just seeing where they're at. And I think that is the opportunity to call up even more. Once you've observed, once you've tested, then you know, okay, this is where I can come alongside and disciple them a little bit better. Right. So it's such a good opportunity that you're creating for these volunteers.
Creating. I'm creating environments and moments and situations to see, can you hit a home run at the bat, at the player?
Yeah.
What do you do with the basketball? And the first 2-3 times when they do something new or unfamiliar, they're not going to be great. It takes patience to disciple people. Let's try it again. Let's do it again. Yeah. Let's go back to the drawing board. And it's hard to. I'm not a patient person by nature, but again, if I'm thinking about the person's growth and potential, which is holy and sacred, Michelle, I love excellence. I love progress. I love building, growing. But I would sometimes let that be second priority to make the first priority, how am I developing people? I think that there have been people that have, they actually showed me a lot of their ability to level up in ministry only as I tested them. You know, I had to, here's what I was going to say is we think about development and we think of, okay, well, I'll have a class on that. and we do that, or a Bible study, or a book study, and those are good. Or I'm going to do a video training. We're going to write a book, and that's part of it. Someone said books are great mentors.
Yes.
Or you think of mentoring as I'll meet you once a month for coffee, and there is that. We both do that. But here's my point: sometimes the development is testing them and watching.
Yes.
Watching them learn or fail and screw up, because failure is a great teacher.
Yes.
So what I'm saying to you young ministry leaders is stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to always grow your ministry. God grows ministry, by the way. You just disciple people and then let God deal with the results.
I'm just recalling, you're saying this observation and testing. I think another thing that you were so great at is this bringing into an inner circle. Like you not only observed them in ministry or observed them alongside of you, tested them alongside of you, you also brought them in sort of your inner workings of how your brain was working. You brought them into future problems to sort of think through and process. And that, first of all, it honors the person. Like, wow, I've been invited into something that is behind the scenes and behind the curtain. That can be a little scary, but your vulnerability to say, I don't have this figured out. Can you help me think through this? Really was a different sort of testing of their capacity, maturity, and initiative. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I thank you. And you were one of those. That's why we wrote a book together. And many men and women, I hate to use the word earn the right, because I'm a pastor. I love the beauty in every person. In fact, I want to say this. I love the person that's broken, that doesn't have a lot to offer, and we're here for them. But here's the thing. In order to reach many broken, I need healthy.
Yes. That is so important. And I think we need to stop there for a minute.
Right.
Because I think knowing that there is an ability to say, here is a person and here's where they're at. And know that you have to minister to them differently than someone else who's at a totally different phase of life and in a different ministry maturity.
Right.
And I think it's important to know the difference and how you give your time to each one.
That's exactly right. We're called to the broken.
Yes.
But you don't build on broken.
That's powerful.
And I think so. I wish I had. See, Michelle is the systems language. She puts all this, and that's what this book is so great. I just signed my name to the book. It's really hers, because I don't know exactly. I could tell you, well, this is what I looked for. I looked for healthy. I looked for people that had enough foundation.
Yes. And
showed some, maturity. You say it, capacity, maturity, initiative. And then there's some other things that you'll talk about here. The eye chart. I think that was it. That when I saw this leveling up, that every time I tested them, they passed the test. And they showed more. Then I invited them, and you're right. It took vulnerability and humility to bring you into my inner circle, and with whiteboard. And here's one of the things I would do, and that I'm sure you're going to share about the eye chart, is they first had to be faithful with what they were given. If your role or job or assignment is XYZ, they gave their job away, delegated, built the systems, and managed that well. But then that gave them the margin. See, that's what I love about this book. Margin to contribute at a higher level.
Yes.
And now what I was saying was, help me solve problems, help me look farther, faster, help me innovate, help me take some risks. I'm testing a lot of things and people, and I don't know what's going to happen, but God's got us here to test and try and disciple. And it was so fun with coffee and laughing and arguing and whiteboards to think what else is in people.
Yes.
So I loved it.
And I I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking of different people that I saw come in and out of your office. And I watched those people grow. And I am going to talk about the eye chart because it is one of those things that helped me most inside of realizing, okay, why is one level of volunteer not able to handle as much as another?
Right.
And the Lord gave this to me one morning when I was sort of frustrated with myself. Like, why am I feeling stuck? I don't know if stuck's the right word, but just feeling like I'm hitting bumps in the road. Like I'm not going, like you said, farther, faster. What is the reason? And I think I had put myself in a place where I was limiting my own way of thinking. And so once the Lord outlined this eye chart for me, I'm like, oh, I need to level up. I needed to level up in myself. And so I'll just explain a little bit. So the eye chart is just how different people observe work and how they process how a task can be done or their part to play inside of a task.
Yeah.
So it starts with just inexperienced. It goes to an implementer, then to an innovator, then to an independent, and then an imaginer. And it's it is a process of growth and expectancy inside of tasks that you give volunteers or even employees. But for me, I was at this innovator level where I was taking things that were given to me, putting my own spin on it, and meeting a goal. But what the Lord showed me is that I needed to be independent. I needed to move and not be as concerned about what people thought. Don't let that stop me or hinder me, and just be confident in fulfilling a task or a goal in my way. And that included bringing other people alongside of me. I know it sounds independent and bringing people alongside sounds counterintuitive, but for me, the independence was including other people. And I was able to do more because I leveled up to a different way of thinking, which included bringing people into my inner circle.
That's beautiful. And when you wrote the eye chart and we talked about that when we were writing the book, I'm like, that's it. That again gave language, and it gave leveling staircase places where, and by the way, we've said this, every person is valuable and beautiful in the Lord.
Yes.
And our job isn't just to get people to be better or smarter. We're tending to where they're at, and they all can contribute. But as you were talking, Michelle, I just had to stop. That the inexperience, the implementer, the innovator, those lower levels are very productive and good, but those people can contribute to the leader with their hands. Mm-hmm. But the independent imaginer can contribute to the leader through their mind.
Yes, that is so true.
Because when you said that it's a way how they approach work, that clicked. That was gold right there. There's $20 right there. like the way people approach work. Because what and you said you used the word lid of leadership, lid of experience.
Yes.
And all of us have that. And so everybody wants to, again, be discipled, become more. Mm-hmm. And many times the only way I've leveled up is not just magically it happens. It's people that add to me, challenge me, that help me see a more expansive view of what could be.
Yes.
And so when I bring people into the inner circle, it usually is not the people that are the doers, hands, or implement. Go to Publix and buy these 5 things. I love them. And I've tried to bring them in, but when I talk about what if and what could be, here's problems and tensions, so what do you want me to do next? Yeah. And so that's why the inner circle, I would test people at levels of vulnerability with me. Because here's the thing, you've been so kind to me through this, and you've developed so many people. Well, the truth is I was developing myself. The truth was I was trusting you and Jeff to say, I'm willing to be vulnerable and show you my gaps. Yeah. And say, but I have this passion and this calling and this mission that drives me, and I see it in you. Come add to me. Come bring diversity in me. And what's great, everybody, is all of us are continuing to grow in the eye chart. I hope you'll buy this book and read it, because she explains it so beautifully, how people can level up or down through it. But what what I was doing was I was saying, I'm being vulnerable enough to say, I need to level up and you can help me. And so when you show your willingness to grow and be a student, then it inspires them to level up.
Yeah.
The best thing I can do is to inspire people by modeling, I'm trying to grow in Christ, do it with me.
Yeah. You are saying so much, and I wish I could just reverse all of it. And, but what you're talking about is the humility.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so scary about giving your job away. There's a level of humility that we need to be open-handed with our jobs, with our ministry jobs. And I think so many times as pastors, as ministry leaders, we want to hold tight because we do feel this level of responsibility to steward our jobs because kingdom results matter. But what I've learned is that ministry is all about this open-handed posture of humility and this vulnerability to say, I am learning with you. And we're choosing people to fill our gaps. We're recognizing that they have a value and we're learning from their value. Our lid of experience is lifted because we're seeing through somebody's eyes in this tight-knit circle of partnership, in this tight-knit circle of managing our job through others. It's a beautiful place to be. And that's why we're so passionate about it. We've seen this work. We've seen people be fulfilled in ministry. Like as you're talking, there's names and faces of people that I watched this happen. I watched them go from sort of a hesitant volunteer to a very confident volunteer leader over a team. And that was it happened exactly as you described. Just the observation, the testing, the bringing in closer, the commissioning. Like, you are my gap filler.
I love that, the commissioning. I remember you and Jeff and your family were here at South Florida for years, pastoring with us, and moved back to Ohio. God called you there. You've got kids there, a grandbaby, you've got your family. And so we missed you. And so we had a going away for you at the home of one of your top leaders. And there was 50 of us there. And these were the key leaders and families of our church that really served with you and under you and Jeff. And we laughed and we played games and all this, but we started to share. We just cried because we were sending you off with our blessing. And there was such a joy in all of our hearts.
Yeah.
And I think in you and Jeff, because you were seeing the fruit of your labor. Because discipling, developing, calling out the potential, and then coming alongside people, and then as being vulnerable, you said open-handed. Ooh, you and Jeff were open-handed with not just your ministry and the jobs, your life, and you were inviting people in your life. And so that's the beautiful part of this. This book, the concept, Give Your Job Away, is very simple. The exercises and processes are clear, but to do it will take you years of humility and mess and testing and observing. But what we want to say to you is it's worth it.
Yes.
Because you will have a sense of significance and joy in seeing other people remove the lid of experience and go to higher levels of impact for the glory of God.
Yeah. I think of what Paul wrote when he says, you make my joy complete. That is exactly what it felt like to have that margin of time, to not be like I write in the beginning of the book, I was in a closet with a pile of dirty laundry on the verge of tears because I couldn't do it all. And then to fast forward to that moment of being in that room with 50 people who had done ministry with me.
Yeah.
What a contrast.
Yeah. That's right.
What a beautiful expression of joy. Like my joy was complete in that moment because I was open-handed with a ministry job that wasn't even mine to begin with. This was God's. This is his kingdom. This is his church. And to invite people alongside that had their natural gifting and natural inclination in places where I was lacking, and to partner with them and to have my lived experience just removed because I was seeing ministry through their eyes and watching them grow and develop and realizing that it was happening to me at the same time as well. There's nothing like it. And that's why I'm so passionate about giving your job away.
So satisfying.
Is because there's a margin that you get back that is so joy-filling whenever you learn to give your job away.
Michelle, thank you. That's beautiful. Well, Michelle and I wrote this book, Give Your Job Away. It's on Amazon.com. We have Audible version. We actually read the book together. We have it on ebook, Kindle. We have it on printed. And then we also have our podcast that we're putting out on YouTube, and you can listen. So you can reach out to us on our Facebook, Instagram accounts. Yeah. We help pastors and teams all the time, and we have a Give Your Job Away Instagram account. We'd love to hear from you and see how we can serve you.